Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. It's fight week. It's Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. What a fight we have on our hands. And you might be thinking, hold on, this is way too late. This should have happened about 7 years ago. And you're right. But we're here, only a few days left, and I'm pumped. I can't lie to you, I'm pumped. The gloves are off as out. So if you are wanting to watch that full version, video version, do check it out. It's on Sky Sports Boxing's YouTube channel, so you can check it out there if you haven't watched it. This is going to be my reaction to that, taking, I guess, my little bits and bobs that I discovered in that gloves are off, whether I think there's any psychological edges, how I thought it went, and also give a I want to say early prediction really because I think I'm going to do a couple of videos this week on this fight. I think it warrants that, and the undercard is interesting. It's got Vidal Riley on it, Fraser Clark, Natasha Jonas, the Azim brothers. So it's not terrible. It's pretty good. I mean, there's some good fighters on there. I think it'll probably be a pretty one-sided undercard though. There's some names on there, but not many hugely competitive fights. So I think most people will be tuning in primarily for that main fight, which, let's be honest, is a long time coming. Let's get straight into the gloves are off, actually, because I think we'll have time to talk about some of the undercard fights and also the main fight in terms of technically how that's going to pan out. So the gloves are off. As you can imagine, there's animosity throughout the whole, whatever it is, 22 minutes of it. Johnny Nelson in the middle, as always, and both of them sat with the chairs, the wrong way around and arms across. Khan in, a kind of suit, and Brook in his tracksuit. So it was filmed, if I'm not mistaken, just after the. It's normally done straight after the first press conference, so it would have been filmed a while ago, but they release it in fight week, which makes sense, right? So it was it was interesting. I would have thought that Amir Khan would have dominated it more. The reason I say that is because in the first press conference, which to be fair wouldn't have been that much before this gloves are off, as I said, he completely dominated Brook. I thought he talked down to him. Brook looked rattled. He just wasn't happy. I mean, he said, he basically said in not so many words, you are not on my level. You've been chasing me. You're obsessed with me. You want to be me. And now you got the fight. I'm going to knock you out. You're worn and torn, etc. Now, look, whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. I think if you look at the psychological exchanges or the mind games, I think Amir Khan definitely had the upper hand in that presser. In the gloves are off, I think he still edged the gloves are off, but it was slightly like closer. It was one of those, if Khan had taken the first press conference by knockout, this is more like a relatively comfortable points victory, but it didn't look quite as good, and Brook put up more of a fight. That's how I kind of saw it. Brook, I think, mentioned some good points. Mentioned that, of course, we're talking about the fight is here now, but really it should have been made a long time ago. And I think it's universally known that the reason why it didn't happen is because Khan didn't take it. Brook would have taken it at any moment, I think. But the reason why Khan didn't take it is because, you can't really blame him. He was chasing after the Pacquiaos, the Mayweathers, the Canelos, like he was chasing after greatness, and he always has been. He's been chasing after people who, in all honesty, are bigger and better fighters than Brook in terms of legacy. It would have been, huge for his legacy. He's been out to America. He's fought there. He's been successful, Amir Khan. I mean, look, Brook, a lot of people forget, and he mentioned it. And, I think that was a fair point that he went to America himself. He went to America. He fought Sean Porter. He beat him in his own backyard. A lot of people were thinking he was going to be the one fighting at the time the Keith Thurmans, even potentially, getting with Danny Garcia. And then who knows, he wins those fights. Maybe he is going to be the guy who gets that kind of Pacquiao or Mayweather fight. For Amir Khan, I think, he probably should have got the Mayweather fight when Mayweather fought Maidana, because he'd beaten Maidana prior to that, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't get it, which, again, I think how Brook was chasing Khan, and Khan, I don't think he ducked Brook. I think he just, he was looking for great things. I think similarly, you can say the same with Mayweather. I think the only difference there is that was Maidana and is Maidana, does he have a better legacy than Amir Khan? I would say no, to be honest with you. Maidana was a really, really good fighter, and he will have a legacy of his own. But personally, I think Amir Khan's had a better career in terms of wins, and notable wins on his resume. But look, either way, Mayweather is fantastic. I don't think he was ducking him per se. I just think it was more a preference thing. Now, they talked about how the weight's going to be 149, and Amir Khan said, "Well, look, you're saying to me now that I'm being really difficult in the negotiations," and Brooks said, "Look, if it was anyone else in my position, they would have walked away because of the amount of things you've demanded." What does this sound similar to? Now, if you're thinking, where have I heard this story before, and a similar kind of, uh, I guess, matchup, is actually David Hay versus Tony Bellew. Now, Bellew said a very similar thing, saying that David Hay had been asking for X, Y, and Z right in the first fight. Now, ironically, what happened then is Bellew, of course, beating David Hay, right? And David Hay washed up. Now, I don't know if that's the same thing is going to come about. I will be honest with you, I am a pretty big Amir Khan fan, so which is probably not surprising, in terms of his boxing anyway. So I don't think I'm going to be particularly unbiased, and I'm happy to kind of caveat my prediction with that. Of course, I think anyone who's an Amir Khan supporter is also worried that he's going to get potentially knocked out because he just likes to have a tear up and sticks his chin up in the air in the pocket after getting into exchanges. But I think he should, in terms of pedigree, he should have a little bit too much for Brook. But Brook's timing and his hunger, and I think, he's probably underrated in terms of his boxing ability, for sure. But has he had a little bit more wear and tear? Potentially, but I don't know. We shall see. But in terms of talking and getting back on track on the gloves are off, there was no handshake as well at the end, which I thought was really intriguing. Khan put his hand out, was like, "Yep, yeah, go on, take the handshake if you want." And Brook was like, "No, why am I going to shake your hand?" He has this be in his bonnet about not being respected by Khan throughout his whole career, and that he's never given him his dues. And to be fair, in the gloves are off, he was giving him his dues, but kind of also whilst mocking him partially at the same time. Like, this look on his face Khan had for most of the gloves are off. It was like he was just completely mocking him. It was like, this smile that people give you, where you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's being really patronizing. Like, for example, he said when Brooks said about, I went to America and I beat Porter in his own backyard. He was like, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've had a good career, world champion, went to America, you done, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just like, oh my gosh, like he's mocking him to say, okay, well, like, well, great, yeah, that's all well and good, but I think what he's trying to imply is he's done the same, if not better. Which, to be fair, his career in terms of wins and legacy is definitely better than Brooks. I think we can say that. But who's the better fighter? Like, that it doesn't matter who wins this fight. That debate may still go on for a long time because they're not fighting in their primes. But I think the fact of the matter is that, you know, does Khan respect Brook? I think he does to a degree. I think he probably doesn't respect Brook as much as Brook would like. I think. I just think that Brook isn't particularly happy being the B side here, and I think it shows. He was saying that about the 149 weight limit, and then Khan said, "But you said you would fight me. You said in multiple interviews, and I posted it that you'd fight me at any weight, including 147." And then Brooks said, "Well, that was ages ago," and X, Y, and Z. So it's just one of those things that I'm glad it's here. I'm really glad it's here, this fight, because people debated it, people talked about it for ages. I'm glad it's on Sky and on pay per view. They're really pushing it. I think on DAZN they would have pushed it hugely as well. It would have been interesting because with the different platform, how would they have pushed it, and how would they have been able to push it as far? How many buys is it going to do? Who knows? I don't think it's going to be a million buys. I think it's going to be around the 750, I would say. I think it's going to do good numbers, though. I'm really, really pumped for it. A lot of people have said to me after watching the gloves are off, the animosity there, the fact that neither really respects the other in terms of, respects the person. Like Brooke was making fun of Khan being in the jungle, saying, "Oh, I love that show. Yeah, yeah, I love it." And Brooke's got a very interesting type of humor. It's not. I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it confuses me because I'm not quite sure if he's being serious or not. But they're talking about Amir Khan's chin, and Amir Khan said, now this is very interesting. He said, "I'm better looking. I've got better speed, power, and a better chin." Now, I think that's very interesting. I think if you're going to look at both fighters' attributes, I wouldn't. I'm a Khan fan, but I wouldn't say he's got the better chin. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily got the worst chin either. I think he said that, look, we both probably don't take, a shot as well as others. And, that's a fair point. I mean, look, the fact that Brook has had two orbital bones now, you might not have been completely, knock spark out, etc. But in terms of punch resistance, I think obviously, Brook was saying, well, I'm the Terminator. I've got this in my head, etc., etc. That's not great, right? It's really, really intriguing. Like for me, I don't know how much of an effect those plates that steel is going to have in this fight, because how temperamental is it? I don't know. Now we'll see, right? Because I think realistically, it's going to be an issue if he gets caught multiple times in that fight. Amir Khan though doesn't have the type of power. I think there is a power difference. I think Brook has slightly better power. I think for sure, and then obviously we know that speed. I think Khan's got better speed, and then timing. I think they always say timing beats speed, which is why a lot of people think and thought Brook would beat Khan. And people say, well, Brook's got the better timing. Better feet is difficult. I think he's not got as quick a feet as hands Khan as he's gotten older, and I think Brook's feet are not. He can plod at times. I've gone completely off track, haven't I? Into basically the fight, and that I think that highlights how pumped I am for the fight. I just keep on thinking to myself, how is it going to play out? All I could gather from the gloves are off is that Brook wants a fight, and I think Khan was making fun of him, saying you're that's so amateurish to give away your game plan, etc. And then Khan said, yeah, I'll fight in the middle of the ring with you, which he's not going to. And he even said after, look, there's at times we might fight in the phone booth. At times I'll have to box and move. At times, uh, I might have to push him back. And he said he doesn't. He said that Kell Brook doesn't like being pushed back, which I thought was really, really interesting. The point he made. I don't think any fighter really likes being pushed back unless you're a fighter that predominantly fights on the back foot. I don't think either of these fighters do. I don't think Khan particularly likes being put on the back foot either. And I think the issue with him is that when he is put on the back foot, he tends to get completely destroyed. Like, um, very, very intriguing. Um, what I would say is that for me, I even though Khan, like I thought Edge that gloves are off, I don't think he didn't come out of it as well as I think he would have liked. Um, Brooke, I think for me, in terms of mind games, etc., like just forget it. I mean, I just think if I was him, I would be very minimal in what I'm talking about. At the weigh in and everything else, just forget it. Just switch it off and just say, you know what, I'm not going to even listen to him because I feel like he just gets under his skin a lot. And I feel like he really struggles to get to grips with Khan, and he just really gets his blood boiling. At the end, he was absolutely fuming when the handshake opportunity came, and he was like, "What? I'm going to shake your hand. I'll shake your hand off the fight's done." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Oh my god!" Both think they're going to knock each other out. By the way, I think Khan said, "You know, it's not going 12 rounds. I'm going to knock him out." Brooks said the same. He said, "You know, it's either going to finish with Khan on his back or on his front." So basically saying that, you know, he's going to be knocked down to his back or knocked down to his front and like slump forward. I for me, right, it's it's a very interesting one. Um, I'm gonna give a prediction now because I think it's quite interesting to talk about. I think I'm going to go Khan. I'm going to go late stoppage, but late stoppage in the sense that I don't think he's going to knock Brook out. I think it's going to be one of those ones where, you know, early rounds. It's difficult, right? Because I don't know. It could easily flip. Brook could be the fresher one early rounds, or it could be Khan, and then one of the two could go on stronger as the fight goes on. But I think because of the weight cut as well, and I feel like Brook will struggle more with the weight cut. I think in the first few rounds, if Brook doesn't knock him out within the first 6 rounds, I think it's going to be quite tough. And I think Khan should come on stronger as the fight goes on. And if that's the case, I think he may stop him, but it'll be like on his. I don't think he'll knock him out. I think it'll be more either like a flash knockdown and then he'll get stopped on his feet. And I think Khan gets the win. Now, a lot of people are saying like they think Khan might win now, but you know, in the primes, I think Brook would win. They would have thought Brook would win. Again, like take this with a pinch of salt because of my bias, but I just think in terms of pedigree, and I know styles make fights, but I feel like Khan would have been too much in their primes. But the problem I also have is that Khan realistically in his prime wasn't a 147 fighter, it was a 140 fighter, and Brook was at 147. If they met at 147 with Khan moving up, then yeah, Brook might have beaten him, but they were in different weight categories. The only way I can see them fighting is if maybe Khan had, and he was still rare. He's still not really in his prime, but after beating Devin Alexander, he looked really good. And that's when a lot of people thought he was going to get the Floyd fight as well. That was another opportunity. And then Mayweather and Pacquiao. Well, that was 2016. That was 6 years ago. He would have been, what, 29? They could have fought then. And I think Khan beats him off that Devin Alexander fight. But I don't know. Like, I can understand why people think Brook would beat Khan as well. And I also understand why people think now that Brook would beat him. I feel like I've gone completely on a tangent and touched upon the gloves are off. But yeah, do watch that video. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's on the Sky Sports Boxing channel. We are going to do some more videos on this because I want to talk a little bit more technically about the fight from my knowledge anyway, and from what I know. Which, again, I'm not a professional boxing trainer or coach, but I'm just a big fan. So from what I think may happen, I think what the keys are for each fighter, and then also looking a little bit into the undercard as well, and just giving a brief. It will be quite brief overview of that, so people are aware who's on the undercard. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If you're watching on Spotify, do follow us if you don't mind, and leave a review on Spotify as well for the podcast. And we're also on Apple Podcasts. So I think it's subscribe on there, and Google Podcasts as well. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Share the videos. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Stay safe and well, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much.